Good morning. Hello. It's Tracy at TierraCast. Um, Thank you for dropping in. Um, this is our last live stream demo of 2022. Our shop closes for a couple of weeks. Well, it's usually somewhere between 10 days and a couple of weeks before Christmas, and then we come back after New Year. So it's great. It's a good rest time for all of us, and then we come back all refreshed at the beginning of the year and get back to it. So this is our last Tuesday demonstration, and probably because of that, when the New Year's official holidays, it's obviously on the 1st, but then the 2nd is Monday, and that's a paid holiday, and then we'll be back in the shop on Tuesday the 3rd. So I'm not going to attempt a live stream on that day. It'll be our first day back in the shop, and it'll be just not practical. So I'm not going to do that. Hi, Sherry. Thank you for popping in. And I was just going to say, if anyone's here, say something so I know you're here. So thank you, Sherry, for doing that. And especially if you're watching on YouTube, we like to know things are working over there, because we just recently, last couple of months, have started streaming live to YouTube as well as Facebook. So it's kind of exciting, opens it up a little bit. But we do like to know if someone's watching. So let us know. I love this project that we're demonstrating today. It was a project from our Celestial collection, which we launched at the beginning of 2021. So that was our winter launch for 2021. So almost 2 years ago now. But it's a really fabulous collection of components, and there's a lot of crystal involved, so it's very sparkly. And this was a project that we just never got around to doing a demo of. And I always think of it when the solstice starts to come around. So it's a perfect time to demonstrate it. Hello, Karen. Hi, Cindy. Thank you, you guys, for stopping in. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the camera so you guys can see the work setup here and see what we're going to do. So these earrings, let's see if I can get them up close to the camera so we can see them a little better. These earrings use several components from, let me do a little comment. Whoops. I'm going to post the links for both the project and the Celestial collection here in the comments. That way you guys have easy access to that. And then see here, that one can go. And then I'm also going to be posting a couple of links. We're going to be working with some German style wire. So I'm holding this in one hand and just kind of moving it around because I'm copying and pasting with the other hand. So sorry, just kind of jumping around there. Hello, Danielle. Hi, Robin. Thank you, you guys, for coming to hang out with us today. So I just posted a link to the project itself. These are called our Comet's Tail earrings. And I also posted a link to our Celestial collection. And this design uses several components from that collection. It uses the starburst button, which is a sweet little button that's got the starburst pattern and then has a tiny little crystal embedded in the center. So it's got some lovely sparkle. It also uses our Crystal Brilliance links. Now, these are tiny little links that are two-sided, and they are available. We sell them somewhere around here. I have a little container of the empty ones. We sell these both glued with crystal and empty so that you can, in theory, glue your own crystals in there. So that would be a fun option for this project. I used the ones that have the crystals already glued in them. So there's a flat back crystal on both sides. And then you could use any color flat back crystal. It's the SS16 size. So it's just about, I want to say it's a slightly bigger than 4 millimeter. It's about a 5 millimeter crystal, but you know, it's that SS16 size. So if you're familiar with crystal sizing, you'll know what that is, and SS16 flat back crystal. All these details are in the downloadable project sheet. So if it's confusing, you can find it all there. And then the last part included in this design from that collection is our moon phases charms. So those are tiny little charms that we have a quarter moon and a half moon and a full moon. And they come available in a set. So when we sell these as little sets, there's 2 each, or so 2 each or 4 each. How do the sets come? Let me review so I'm not giving you guys the wrong info. And I don't happen to have that container handy, but it's a set, has the 2, I believe it's just 2 of the quarter moons, 2 of the half moons, and 1 of the full moons. Now we also sell the quarter moons and the full moons individually, so someone could buy those by themselves. This is also a good time to remind everybody, in case you're new to a TierraCast live stream demo, we are a wholesale manufacturer. We do not sell retail to the public. We do have a page on our store, on our website, that can help you find retail stores that work for you, either brick and mortar stores or online resources that sell our products. So, so those are the little components from the Celestial collection that are included in this design. It also uses some of our finest chain, and that's why I ended up using the German style wire with this design, is because the chain, let's clear this little board off, because the chain has such tiny little links. Oops, we might need that board again. Such tiny little links that I couldn't get our eye pins through them. Now, our eye pins at that time were a 21 gauge eye pin, and they were just too big to fit through the links of this tiny little chain. So when I was creating the design, I had to find another way to link all these components together. I wanted to use this very delicate chain. So I, of course, tried craft wire. Now, craft wire is what you call dead soft. So it's very malleable, and it's great for making wrapped loops, but it's not, maybe not quite strong enough to hold with a simple loop. So that's why I started playing with the German style wire, which is the project as I made it originally used a 22 gauge wire. I'm using a 24 today because I want to do a gold version, and this is what I have. So 24 is going to work just as well, if not better, because it's, fine enough to get through the tiny little links of this chain. So a German style wire is, craft wire is dead soft, very soft, easy to bend and wrap, and it's wonderful stuff to work with. But because I wanted something a little harder, I got the German style wire, which is a little bit higher. There's a nice little gauge here on the back of the package of this. It's made by Beadalon, and I'm sure that there are other manufacturers of it, but I have only worked with Beadalon's German style wire. So it's like kind of in between the quarter hard and the half hard on the little scale they have on the back. So what that means is it's a medium temper, not quite as hard as like a half hard sterling silver, but certainly it's much better than the dead soft for the kind of thing that we're going to use it for today. So it's still soft, easy to work with, but it's got enough stiffness so that it's going to hold a simple loop better than if I had tried to do this with a craft wire. With a craft wire, I would have had to do wrapped loops, and it would have just made it, I think, too complicated. So I was really happy that I found the German style wire, and it was a very good solution. So to make these earrings, of course, the downloadable project sheet has all the details. I've got ear wires here. I've got the starburst buttons. I've got the moon phases charms. I've got the little crystal brilliance links. I have some 3mm spacer beads. Those are our tiniest little disc spacer beads. And those come into play up here where we're attaching everything to the button. And then I've got some of our finer gauge jump rings in 2 sizes. This is our 6mm or 5.5mm ID jump ring, and this is our 8mm ID jump ring. And then I have 7.5 inch of that tiny little cable chain. Now you could certainly use a different chain. You wouldn't have to do something quite so tiny. You could use a different one and it might make the project easier. And then the project calls for the 22 gauge German style wire. I'm using 24 because that's what I happen to have in the gold, and I think it'll work fine. And then you need some little seed beads. These are just a pretty little hex cut, and I like the hex cut because they're trying to get some light on the subject. I like the hex cut because it has a little bit of fast sitting. So it's a size 11 seed bead hex cut that worked really nice for this design. You could certainly mix that up. Size 11 bead worked well. You could go with something bigger, and then, you know, it would increase the length of the whole design a little bit. So you just have to take that into consideration. And then I have ear wires, and that's what you need to create these earrings. Now, I did start to try, because there's a lot of simple loops in this project. I did try to start some ahead of time. Didn't get very far, but I got a few done. For each earring, you need 15 of these little tiny links. So it's going to take a little bit, but it goes pretty quickly. Something I want to mention. When I was talking about the project at the beginning, I was talking about how the eye pins we had at the time were 21 gauge, and they were too thick to go through the links of this tiny little chain. Since then, we have moved to making our eye pins and head pins with a 22 gauge wire. So it's slightly smaller, and it does work for this chain. So that was pretty exciting. However, if I had decided to use, and also these eye pins are even slightly stiffer than the German style wire, so they would definitely hold the simple loops very well. However, I'd still end up doing all the, you know, the eye pin is great, but it only has 1 loop, and I'm gonna have to keep making more loops. So it just was easier to use the half hard wire. The German style wire, I should say, medium temper. So the first thing I did was I cut, for each earring, I needed 15 of these little links. So I cut a bunch of little pieces of that wire, 5/8 inches long. And then to make my little links, I fold it about 1/4 inch. And you know me, I'm not really measuring precisely. I've done enough of these where I can kind of estimate it. My little pieces of wire are 5/8 inches long, and I fold it about 1/4 inch and make a little simple loop there. And then string on one of those tiny little seed beads. And then protecting the top of that seed bead, because it's glass and it's fragile, I placed my thumbnail right over the top of that before I bent that wire over. Now, this is that medium temper wire, so it's not very stiff, but it could still crack that. It could still crack that wire or the bead, which I don't want to happen. So I make sure I protect it. I did also, while I was looking around at differences in wires, I found a couple of, whoops. I keep trying to copy my links that I set up for you, and they keep going to the pages instead. I did find a couple of nice blog posts about wire tempers and just good wire information. So I'm going to pop those in here too. It's kind of fun to, you may or may not know a lot about different types of wire for jewelry making. And it's kind of fun to review that stuff. So I found a couple blogs that I'm putting into the links there. Hello, Lori. Hello, Anita. Hello, Emily. Oh, is it cold in Alabama? It's been very cold here. But slightly warmer this week, just slightly. I mean, everybody's having to cover their fruit trees and stuff, but it's slightly warmer this week. Somebody's post caught my attention, and now I don't remember what it was. But as always, if you have any questions while I'm working, go ahead and put them in the comments, and if I will do my best to Lori, this is not available as a kit. Sorry. She says, is there a kit for these? I'm lazy. There's not a kit. But, you know, the good thing about not having a kit is you can just adapt whatever you've got to the project. I mean, you could use any button for this. You could use, you know, it doesn't have to be a celestial theme. You could use this kind of design and do a chandelier earring with kind of anything. So sorry, not a kit. This would be a very fussy kit for us to put together, and the production team would just probably run screaming. So I doubt this one will ever turn into a kit. As always, if you have questions, please pop them in the comments and I'll try and catch them. And if I don't, I try to go through all the comments after we're done and I'll answer them later. So, oh, something else I wanted to mention. You know, if you've watched my demos at all, you know that with projects that have a lot of simple loops, I often bring up the one-step looper tools, which are awesome. But I'm not very good with them. And then I'm always doing projects where I'm making a ton of simple loops and I go, oh, I should have used the one-step looper, but I don't know where they are. So I actually did dig them out this time. But I couldn't use them because the wire that I'm working with, the little lengths of wire are just too short. So I just wanted to say I did get the loopers out. I did try, but the little length of wire we're working with is too short for the simple loop, for the one-step looper. So I tried, but those are cool tools. If you've ever used them, they're really handy if you're doing a project where you're making a ton of simple loops. And I love to use them when I remember to dig them out and use them. In this case, I remembered and it did not work. So this wire, you know, this medium temper wire, it's not as soft as craft wire, but it's still really nice and easy to work with. So making all these simple loops is not that onerous a task. It will take us a couple minutes to get through this, though. Sorry about that. I did find a lot of good info in those wire blogs, so be sure and look at those. It will kind of refresh your memory about what dead soft wire is, and craft wire usually, well, as far as I know, always is considered dead soft. And craft wire is usually a copper, and then you can get it's plated, you know, in different finishes. So it's what you call dead soft. Awesome for wrapping and doing all of that. And then as you go up the scale, you get your medium temper, which is this German style wire. And then you get up to like a half hard sterling silver wire, which is probably more like the temper of our head pin. So it's just slightly stiffer. Still nice and easy to use, but slightly stiffer. And then as you go up the scale, then when you get to that super hard wire, you really can't use that too much in jewelry making unless you're doing like pins for brooches or something that just has to stay completely solid and not bend at all once you've formed it into whatever your form is. I've never really worked with wire like that. So not experienced. So as I said, I need to do 15 of these little links. They come into play in 3 places in the design. You got them up here at the top, and then there's a little length of chain, and then there's one on either side of the crystal brilliance link. And there's five tassels, so to speak, or strands that are hanging. So that's where the 15 comes from. And I'm not being particularly neat and tidy with this, but I am going to go back in when I'm all done making these. I'm going to straighten. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and straighten them all up, and make sure that the loops are closed. Once in a while, you know, no matter how many you make, one just goes sideways, you know. You have to see if you can save it. Like this one is my point. I think it'll be okay. I did imagine, you know, you can find, I'm working with little seed beads, obviously. You can find fire polished check glass beads in 2 millimeter. And all I had was this purple, but I thought that those would be really nice to use too. They would be a much more consistent, you know, the seed beads can be inconsistent in size and shape a little bit. And the check glass ones like this would be very consistent, but all I had was these little purple ones. And I didn't want to do this project with purple. You could, you know, whatever color you choose is designer's choice. This, you know, kind of the celestial theme, I always lean towards silver instead of gold. But I thought it would be fun to just put this one together in gold, just for the fun of it. And some people do prefer wearing gold rather than silver. I'm sort of equal opportunity, but I probably wear more silver than anything else, but I also love copper and brass. I probably wear gold the least, but it just depends on what the situation is and what else I'm wearing. So I like all the metal finishes. All right, so that should be, I cut 15 wires, I think. So that should be 15 of my little links. I'm going to count them as I straighten them and tidy them. So you can see how tiny they are. I guess, you know, working with such tiny little components would not, oops, that keeps sliding up. This is why you want to make sure your loops are completely closed, because that seed bead just slid right up around the, right up through the loop because it wasn't closed all the way. And I'm just, like I said, I'm straightening, kind of tidying up the loops, making sure they're closed, and I'm turning all the loops so that they're perpendicular. Probably not that important. If they were like, sorry, I want them to be parallel. It probably is not that important if they were perpendicular to each other. That, like this one is right now, you know, one of the loops is turned this way and one is turned that way. Probably doesn't really matter that much, but because I wanted the consistency of the loops to be the same on the dangles, I turned them all the same. Those, you know, those chain dangles are going to swing and move constantly, so it's not like it's something anybody else is going to probably even notice. And I said I was going to count while I was straightening, but I didn't. Let's see. So that's 5. There's 10. 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm actually one ahead, but that's okay. In a perfect world, I will also do the second earring after our demo today and post a picture of it. We'll see. We got a lot going on, and we are trying to get ready to close up the shop for a couple of weeks. So, usually I try to tidy up my office so that my background here when I'm doing my demos is kind of, tidy. But I don't know if you guys noticed when I started the video, you can see behind me, it is not tidy right now. It is a disaster. Yeah. Oh, Robin, I love copper. It's might be my favorite after silver. All right. So the next stage, we've got our 15 little links. The next stage is I'm going to cut some lengths of chain in the sizes I need. So I need, for each earring, I need 2 half-inch pieces. And again, in the interest of things hanging facing forward, I actually, in the original design, paid attention to how many links that is. So that when, oh, what's going on here? I told you guys as I was working, I told you guys that I was straightening the links so that all the loops were parallel to each other, but they're supposed to be perpendicular. So now I'm going to have to go through and fix all those. But what I was saying about the chain is, the way they connect, how many links there are, if it's an odd number or even number, will determine how the next component is going to hang, right? So I actually put the link number in the instructions. However, you may end up using different chain and it may just work differently for you. But if it's an odd number of links, then the stuff will hang facing forward. Kind of depends on the design. So you see here, I'm correcting. I was going through and making them all nice and parallel, but I need to make them perpendicular. So, there's always a good reason to read the directions thoroughly. And it has been this, like I was saying about our Celestial collection, it is almost 2 years old. So I made these earrings right around this time of year 2 years ago. So it's been a long time. So I did try and refresh my memory and went through the directions, but clearly I missed this little detail. And it's another good opportunity to just make sure the loops are closed. I'm going to be actually opening the loops to attach everything, so there'll be more opportunity to make sure I got them all closed. All right, corrected those. Now, what I was doing here was I was cutting 2 half-inch pieces of chain. And in the instructions, I do mention how many links. I went for an odd number. I'm just not going to worry about that today. So I need 2 half-inch pieces, 2 3/4-inch pieces, and then the last piece will be 1 inch. Part of the process of making projects that you're going to write instructions for is as you're making them, it's smart, I learned this the hard way, to really keep in mind how you can write them so that they'll be understandable and will make sense to somebody who's then going to go on and make it. So I do try to keep that in mind when I'm making projects, so that then it's just easier. All right, so I've got my chain cut. I got 2 half-inch pieces, I got 2 3/4 inch pieces, and I have, whoops, 2 3/4 inch pieces here, and 1 1-inch piece. The rest of this chain would be for the second earring. All right, what's my next step? We're going to start attaching these little guys to the chain pieces. So all I need to do is open up that a loop, and oops, I lost my 1-inch piece of chain. This is where I need better glasses, I'm telling you. I've got this little loop open. My seed bead's trying to escape. And I'm suspending the chain so that I can get that end link hanging straight down, and then I can slip that onto the loop and close that up. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the other end. So there's only one piece of chain in each dangle. So you're putting a link at the top and a link at the bottom. These are slightly fussy earrings, but I think they're worth it. They're just really kind of fun to wear. So you can see why the wire gauge is important here. I'm working with the original design was with the 22 gauge. I'm working with the 24, which is even slightly narrower. So it really goes onto the chain easily. So that just makes that part of the process a little less fussy. I hope everybody's staying healthy as you're getting ready for holiday stuff. We've had, boy, the colds and flus going around right now have been in our area. They're really laying people low. I've been fortunate so far. But, oops, I'm jumping the gun. That's attached to the chain. I need to flip to the other side and get a new link. I've been fortunate so far. My house, we've managed to avoid catching anything. But that could change with the holidays coming up. Sometimes when those links are really nicely closed, it's hard to see which side is the open side. So remember at the beginning I was talking about how you could use craft wire, which is so much softer, but you'd really want to do wrapped loops here. You wouldn't want to rely, it's so soft, I just don't know that you'd want to rely on a simple loop out of craft wire. So you can imagine that if you were doing wrapped loops with each one of these, how it would, I don't know, make the project it's already a fussy project. And that would just make it more fussy, right? I think. Jessica says both of her little ones are sick right now. And that, when you got kids in school, there's just no way to avoid it. from my recollection. Oh my goodness. The first year my kids were in school, my daughter, which was, 25 years ago, I was never so sick in my life. She just brought home like a ridiculous everything she brought home. Okay, I'm jumping the gun with the jump rings. I'm going to push them back up there. I've got all my little chain segments. All my little chain segments prepared, and you can see that they're, the graduated sizes with the graduated lengths with the 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch, and then a 1/2 inch again. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take each of these little pieces and attach one of the Crystal Brilliant links. And I was going to go ahead and set that aside and keep going, but I might as well, while I'm working with each link, start attaching the charms as I'm going. So the charms go, wait a minute, is there another link in between? There is. Okay, jumping the gun again. I seem to be, that must be my mode today. All right, so I've attached the Crystal Brilliance link. There's one more link, seed bead link that goes at the bottom of that. It is quite a little construction project. Jessica, I'm assuming school's out, though, for your little ones right now, right? So they're home. Not missing anything at school anyway. Oops, what's happening? I did imagine for a minute when I was preparing for this, I started thinking about the idea of using some blue flatbacks and putting together some crystal links with a different colored crystal than the clear. But I decided that this was a long enough project without adding another process to demonstrate. And if you watched, I worked with these little Crystal Brilliance links a couple of weeks ago. We had a visit here at the shop by one of our customers, Joyce Trowbridge, who owns a store called Just Beat It. Used to be a brick and mortar store. It's about an hour away from us in Concord, in East Bay, we call it, on the east side of the San Francisco Bay. So she used to have a great store that I never actually had a chance to go into before they had to close it. But anyway, she came for a visit. It was super fun. And we decided that as long as she was going to be here, we would do a live stream demo. And she wanted to work with the Celestial collection. So I actually did work with these little links when Joyce was here and we did our demo, which you can find on our Facebook page. We did it on Thursday December the 8th. So it was a couple Thursdays ago. So you could watch that if you want to see me demonstrate gluing crystals into the empty ones. It's a very easy process. It's usually recommended with when you're gluing crystals into a component to use a 2-part epoxy. We've used hypo cement for these very successfully, so that works pretty well. And And, you know, if you've ever used hypo cement, you know, the tube has that tiny little needle. So it works, tiny little dispenser. It's almost like a needle, and it's sharp too. And if you've ever used it, you know that. But it works super well for using, for gluing the little flat back crystals into these components. All right, so now I really need to pay attention. I've got my different lengths of chain all embellished with the seed beads and the crystal brilliance link. And now I'm going to add on the charms at the bottom. So the longest one gets the full moon charm. This is that, remember there was one link I was making that the loop was just funky and I couldn't quite get it right? That was the one. So the center longest one gets the full moon charm. Second one gets the 3/4 inch lengths of chain get the half moon charms. And make sure those are closed. And then the 1/2 inch length of chain gets the 1/4 moon charm. So that's how those come together. Jessica says, just beat it. There's always for years been a bead show down in Oakland, which is, you know, here in San Francisco Bay Area, we have San Francisco on one side of the bay and Oakland on the other. And so we've always had a bead show down there for a long time. It was, oh gosh, what was the name of that bead show? It's a great bead show down in Oakland, and that bead show closed down. And then the last couple of years, it's been the whole bead show, which if you guys are familiar with those shows, they take place kind of all over the place. I think she's even doing them in Milwaukee next year. Anyway, there's the whole bead show happens down in Oakland now in November, and Joyce and Just Beat It have always exhibited there. So Jessica's saying that she went down. Jessica is a local person. I don't think we've met. Have we met Jessica? But anyway, she went down to the bead show. I did not go down to Oakland for the bead show, but Jessica did, and said she met Joyce down there. Joyce is really fun. It's a great store. You guys should check it out. All right. So these are all put together. I'm looking at the original to refresh my memory. Okay, what do I do now? So the way we connect all the tassels to the button, this is a shank button. And if you are familiar with the inspirations on our website, you know we love using buttons in earrings. And this is usually the way we turn a shank button into a focal for an earring, is just by attaching jump rings at the back. So that's exactly how we did this design. We do incorporate a couple of really small spacers on that. The larger jump ring is the one that's holding all the chain lengths. And I used those spacers in between the links to give them a little bit of space, so they would hang with a little bit of space between them. So that's what the spacers are for. So what we're going to do is just open up one of those larger jump rings. And start adding on the different components. So I'm going to start from one side, so the shortest one first, and then one of the little spacer beads. Having trouble getting that spacer bead onto the jumping because I can't see through my fingers. You got to have fingers, but you can't exactly see through them when you're doing stuff like this. And then the second length of chain, another spacer, third length of chain, spacer, you see the pattern. And then before I close that jump ring, I'll take the button and just thread that jump ring through the shank. And then I can close that up. Now, at this point, you might want to look at the way you hung all these and kind of see how how your little moon charms are going to hang. And this is it's probably not that important because, again, these little chain dangles are just going to swing and move constantly. But if you wanted them in the proper position, at least for the northern hemisphere, you would attach these so that the quarter moon is facing outwards and the half moon is facing outwards as well. And then the full moon, and then this would be facing outward and facing outward. So that's how the moon phases play out in the northern hemisphere. So the quarter moons curve out, half moon flat side is out, full moon, and then the opposite. If you're in the southern hemisphere, which every once in a while we get viewers who are like, who are somewhere else, not in the northern hemisphere. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, you turn these guys around. The half moon and the quarter moon would face kind of towards the full moon, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think some people think this is a much more pleasing way to look at the moon phases. But if you want to be like astronomically correct for the northern hemisphere, you would flip those out. These are just going to swing and swing and swing, so it's really not that important. So I did just want to point that out, though. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is take the one of the smaller jump rings, and we're going to add that to the shank right above the other one. Oops, and before I close that, I'm going to go ahead and add an ear wire. Now, the ear wire I've chosen for this design is what we call our front loop ear wires, and they're just, we have a few types of ear wires. We have some that are embellished with beads, and then we have some that have this loop that sits down below the hook of the ear wires, the earrings, so that it, kind of sits down below that. That we call our regular loop. This one that I chose for this design is what we call our front loop. And what I like about this one, it curves to the outside, so it's different in that way. And then also it's just this tiny little curve up, and it's shorter. So if I hang something from here, it brings the whole design up a little bit. So I liked that for this design. It was already so long. I didn't want to add a long ear wire. And so that's why I chose the front loop ear wire. You could use any ear wire you want, of course. So that is it. I love this design. I will, I hope, be able to finish the second gold one and get a picture up for you guys today, because I think it's real pretty. I think it came out nice. And you can see it's a tiny bit fussy, but it's really just assembly. You just have to cut the things you need and make the simple loops you need. And then just, the rest is just attaching everything and stringing it all together. So yay. I will absolutely, I'm going up a sliding scale here. At the beginning of the demo, I was like, I don't know, if in a perfect world, I'd make a second one. And then later I was like, I'll really try to make a second one. And just now I said, I will absolutely make the second one. So, so watch for that, you guys. I will make the second one and post a picture later today. So you can see the nice color variation. And then these are just so sparkly and fun to wear, don't you think? So I recommend it. It's a fun project. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I might have to wear these. That's another good reason for me to finish making the second one. The ones I actually am wearing are another demo we've done. I don't even remember what we call these. What do we call these? We made these also from our Celestial collection. And in that collection, bear with me. I'm going to pull up this design so you guys can see these ones. There is a demo link in the project page. If I could remember what I called these, Celestial Sparkle. I called these ones Celestial Sparkle. And what was fun about these ones, I think, Dana, I think you're right. This would make a really pretty pendant too. You would just hang, hang a chain or something, whatever you're going to use for your stringing material through. Well, you could either add another jump ring to the top of this one and then add your chain or whatever you're going to use. You'd figure it out. So the Celestial Sparkle earrings, this component, my phone's ringing. This component is also from the Celestial collection, and it's a bezel that is made to hold oval crystal stones. But in this case, we used polymer clay and embedded little crystal chatons into the polymer clay. That phone could stop ringing anytime. Yeah, I was just for a second, I was like, wait a minute, was that epoxy clay or was it polymer clay? It was definitely polymer clay because we put the whole thing in the oven to finish it. So this is a fun design too, very celestial and solstice themed. And there's a demonstration video on that page. So, oh, hi, Carla. She said she just got here and we're just finishing, Carla. But I hope that you can watch the replay. And we did a gold version of the Comet's tail earrings. And something doesn't seem right. Oh, you know what happened, guys? I'm all done. I missed one of the spacer beads. You can hardly tell, but I missed one of the spacer beads over here. That last chain, there should be another spacer bead in between those two. So you can actually see then why I put the spacer beads in, so it would space them out. If the spacer bead on that jump ring is not there, then those chains just kind of hang very close together, especially on the outer edges. So I'll correct that before I take the variation picture. And I'll do that within the next hour or so. And thank you, you guys, for joining me. And again, I'll pop through the comments and see if there's anything I need to answer. So watch for that if you're waiting for an answer on something. And happy holidays to all of you. We won't see you again until we're back in the shop on January 3rd. And we wish everyone a lot of joy and wonderful gatherings and all the blessings possible. So thanks, and we'll see you soon.